All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a podcast that asks a pretty crucial question about how we all spend our free time. Is it actually good for you, or is it kind of draining your brain? Let's get into it.
So, the hosts on this podcast don't waste any time. They kick things off by making it personal right away, posing a question that's, well, it's really designed to make you stop and think.
Okay, let's just take a second and really think about this one. When was the last time you did something that wasn't on a screen? And you actually enjoyed it for at least 30 minutes? Something like cooking or painting, maybe reading a real physical book, playing an instrument. Anything where you were so absorbed that you kind of forgot your phone even existed?
Now, if your brain is kind of struggling to find an answer to that, you were definitely not alone. According to the podcast, that little hesitation, that struggle, it points to a very modern and a very common problem. And yeah, there's actually a name for this feeling. The podcast hosts call it something that sounds, well, a little dramatic, for sure. But I think you're going to find it's an incredibly relatable idea.
So, what exactly is brain rot? Well, first things first, this isn't some official medical diagnosis or anything. It's just a slang phrase for that very specific kind of mental exhaustion you get from, endlessly scrolling through low-quality content. I mean, this just captures that feeling perfectly, doesn't it? It's that moment you finally close your phone after an hour of just random videos, and you think to yourself, what did I just do? You haven't moved, but you feel tired, maybe a little empty. It's like your brain just binged on junk food. And a huge ingredient in this whole brain rot thing is a habit they call doomscrolling. Oh, you know this feeling. It's that magnetic pull where your thumb just keeps swiping, digging for more negative news, more outrage, even while the rest of your brain is practically screaming, please just stop. And the podcast points out that this isn't just some vague feeling, right? It has real, noticeable symptoms. Like your attention span starts to shrink. You feel mentally drained, even though you haven't done any physical activity. And trying to do quiet, focused tasks, like reading a book, it suddenly feels almost impossible. And this quote from the discussion really just hits the nail on the head. We are not bored, we are overstimulated. See, that's the core of the problem. Our brains aren't underengaged, they're completely overwhelmed by a constant stream of notifications, videos, and information. It gets to the point where actual quiet starts to feel uncomfortable. Okay, but right now, you might be thinking, hang on, I watch TV to relax after a long day. What's wrong with that? And that's fair. But this is where the hosts draw a really, really crucial distinction. It turns out that a lot of what we call relaxation is actually just escapism. That's when you're using an activity to kind of run away from your feelings or problems instead of, genuinely recharging your batteries. So one of the hosts shared this great personal story that really shows the difference. On one hand, you have binge watching a show for hours, which left them feeling just mentally drained. But on the other hand, spending just 20 minutes playing guitar, that left them feeling proud, not empty. Both are a form of escape, but the feeling afterward is completely different. And yeah, this kind of passive escapism is what can create an identity they playfully call a couch potato. You know the one, an inactive person who spends a whole lot of time just sitting and watching screens. So if escapism is the problem, what's the antidote? Well, the podcast presents a solution that's actually really simple, but also incredibly powerful. And that antidote is hobbies. They argue that hobbies are perfect for fighting brain rot because they do all these amazing things. For one, they help rebuild your attention span. They provide genuine joy, like actual nourishment for your brain. They help you lose yourself in a really healthy way. And, maybe most importantly, they create a real sense of accomplishment. And look, a hobby doesn't have to be some massive time-consuming commitment. The whole point, they say, is just that they breathe some life into your day. That's it. It's about adding something that makes your day feel a little more alive. So the hosts provide this really simple, practical guide to get started. Step 1, choose one tiny hobby. That's it, just one. Step 2, start with just 15 or 20 minutes. No pressure. Step 3 is the big one. Focus on creating something, not just consuming. And finally, step 4, just notice how you feel afterward. That's the real test. And this is the crucial point, really. It's a simple shift that changes your role from just being a passive consumer to being an active creator. You are a creator, not just someone who consumes what other people make. So ultimately, the podcast frames this whole thing as a choice. a choice about the kind of story you want for your brain's next chapter. And the hosts are super clear about this. This is not about making you feel guilty. Experiencing brain rot doesn't mean you're a bad person or you're lazy. It just means your brain is hungry for something better, something more nourishing. And they end their argument with this really powerful idea. That small change, that one little hobby for 15 minutes can be the beginning of a very different and much more fulfilling story for your brain.
So we'll leave you with the final food for thought question that the podcast posed to its listeners. If you recorded your free time for 1 week, would it look more like brain rot or brain growth? Something to think about.